Hiraku is a 39-year-old who spent the last 10 years of his life suffering from a terminal illness until one day, Dr. Kun pulled the plug, and Hiraku's soul burned brightly before God. God apologized for giving him a cruel life and offered to give him a healthy body and a new world. However, Hiraku's true wish was to live as a simple farmer away from people. Wanting to grant his wish, God bestowed him with an overpowered tool called the Almighty Farming Tool. As he woke up in the middle of the forest, he felt he got everything he ever wished for. With nothing but forest as far as the eye could see, he summoned his almighty farming tool, and as he stroked his as he stroked the ground over and over, he noticed he never got tired while using this tool. He needed to find food and water, but when he looked around, the only thing he found was a giant tree and decided it would be the base for his farm. Wanting to find water, he decided to dig a well, and the almighty farming tool transformed into a shovel. After securing the water, he started to clean the area around the huge tree. Another tree was blocking the land he tried to cultivate, so he thought of a smart method to cut it correctly. But as he hit it with the almighty axe, it came down with a single strike. He started processing the wood and soon realized he needed to build a shelter. However, he didn't know how to build it, and before he knew it, the sun came down. He quickly dug a hole at the base of the tree to take shelter. He spent the night carving some utensils and figuring out how to put pieces of wood together. The next morning, he transformed the almighty tool into a magnifying glass and started a fire. He continued to clear the forest, cutting down trees to make space for his farm. Suddenly, a monster rabbit rushed him, but with his mighty tool, he finished it off. After eating the rabbit, he needed to launch his brown shuttle and decided to build a nice toilet. After setting up his farm, he grabbed his almighty hoe and started stroking the ground. Dreaming about all the vegetables he would plant, he forgot he didn't have any seeds and decided to rest for the night. When he woke up, he saw there were some sprouts already, but he hadn't planted any seeds. They were growing so fast, and he wondered if it was the powers of his almighty tool. To protect his farm from monsters, Hiraku spent the next few days building a fence and digging a trench around his home. He used creative carpentry methods to stick the wood together and finally managed to build a small hut. He kept expanding his farm for a few days when two injured wolves appeared. He brought them inside and fed them the leftover meat from the boar he had hunted. He noticed the female was pregnant and remembered his desire to get a dog, wondering how nice it would be to have them stay. The female was about to give birth, so Hiraku brought them inside the hut and lit a fire to keep them warm. He slept in the tree hole and, as morning came, he found 4 healthy puppies. To celebrate, he offered the wolves the tastiest pieces of the boar. As time passed, the wolves stayed in the hut, so Hiraku built a new house for himself. Now, the puppies were old enough to run around. Hiraku's first plants had fully matured, and the tomatoes were the first to be harvested. The dogs helped around the farm by hunting and protecting the crops, so Hiraku decided to name the male Kuro and the female Yuki. Time passed, and God decided to check up on Hiraku. He realized he fucked up again because he sent our boy Hiraku to live in the Forest of Death, a place filled with demons and vicious monsters. He wondered if Hiraku was going to visit him again soon. However, in the Forest of Death, Hiraku managed to grow a variety of vegetables and fruits, and as he imagined planting eggplant, the almighty farming tool placed eggplant seeds and also allowed the plants to grow instantly, just like how my eggplant grows when I see Rias Gremory. Grateful for the god's gift, Hiraku built statues to honor them. As he made his lunch, Hiraku was getting bored of his repetitive diet of boiled food, so he planted some trees. Although it would take years to produce fruit, he figured it will be worth it in the end. Time passed, and his wolves grew horns. As they explored, they found a river, and Hiraku thought it would be a good idea to dig a stream to his farm, but it would take a while, so he builds a toilet at the construction site. As the seasons passed, Hiraku's farm kept growing. He grew oil seeds to extract some oil, wheat and sugarcane to extract the sugar, but soon realized winter came. It became too cold for him to keep farming. He tried to make a pelt from the rabbits he killed, but they stunk so bad, he began to stock food for the winter and planned to stay indoors. But one day, Kuro led him to meet a giant spider. It weaved a handkerchief from its webs, and the spider decided to live in the giant tree. In exchange for feeding it potatoes, it produced all sorts of cloth such as mattresses stuffed with leaves, curtains, and winter clothes, and Hiraku gave it the name Zabuton. Soon, winter arrived, and Zabuton hibernated, while Hiraku spent the cold winter days next to the fire. Realizing how lonely it has been, he wondered if he'll forget how to speak to people. Spring came, and the puppies have all grown. They left the farm and went into the forest, but soon came back with partners. One of them even looked like he stole someone's wife. After leaving for a while, Zabuton also came back with a bunch of kids. Now, there was more mouths to feed, so Hiraku wondered if he should expand his farm. Zabuton sounded the alarm and Kuro led Hiraku to a silver-haired girl in the forest. She started crying as the monsters were wary of her. She asked for help, but as soon as Hiraku tried to approach her, she smiled and jumped on him, sucking him off. Sorry, I mean sucking his neck. She suddenly grew, and her perky bug bites became voluptuous melons. The wolves attacked her and she transformed into her small, perky bug bite state again. Hiraku asked her if she was his enemy, but she apologized and begged him to stop the dogs. She only attacked to recover her strength. Hiraku felt bad for her and offered to give her his blood to recover, and she started sucking him off again. I mean sucking his blood. After swallowing his cream, blood, I meant blood. She told him it had a lot of protein, so he must be living a healthy life. He took her back to his farm and after showing her his juicy tomatoes, Hiraku was finally happy to find someone who appreciated his farm, and she asked to see the rest of the crops. After spending the day together, Hiraku saw magic for the first time. He found out she's a vampire named Lu, who came to the forest after running away from some nobles who wanted to steal her research. As she held his cucumber, she asked if it would be alright to come visit in the future, but he told her he didn't want her to leave. After sucking him dry, he wondered what that mouth do, and proposed they get married. Lu was shocked of the sudden marriage proposal, but he told her he didn't care if she was dangerous or a vampire. He didn't want to feel lonely anymore, and she accepted his proposal. After a long night of baby making, the morning came and Lu asked if she could grow some medicinal herbs for her research. She wondered how to get the seeds, but Hiraku explained that his almighty stick can put his seed into anything, just like last night. After multiple nights of Netflix and chill, Zabuton sounded the alarm again. Hiraku found a holy f***ing mommy milkers. Sorry. Hiraku found an angel girl wrapped in the spider webs after cutting her loose. She comes after Lu, but the dogs beat her up. She asked Lu who Hiraku is, and Lu tells her.
He's my husband.
She tells him her name is Tyr. She's an angel sent to hunt Lu down, as there is a bounty on her head after she insulted a noble and destroyed his castle. Lu wonders if Tyr would like to live with them, and after showing her the crops, she helps them to harvest the cabbages. She says,
These are heavy cabbages, huh?
Bitch, it's because you're already carrying 2 heavy cantaloupes. After a day of farming, Lu begs Tyr to stay, because she can't handle Hiraku's almighty stick alone.
Stop the cap.
A few days have passed and Tyr asks to grow more strawberries, but Hiraku tells her there is only 3 of them, so it would be difficult. Kuro and Yuki became grandparents and the number of puppies increased. So, Hiraku decided to build a new dog area. Tyr tells Hiraku she's leaving for a while, and in a few days, she came with a punch of milk pillows. Sorry, I mean a punch of elves. Their leader Ria begs him to take them in. Hiraku wonders why they want to join, and Tia tells him their sad story. They were dragged in the war with humans and lost their male population. They were searching for a place to settle down, and they beg Hiraku to help them repopulate their race. After the population increased, Hiraku decided to build them a new house where they can stay together. The house had a living room and 2 storage rooms, and Hiraku wished they could live happily in this village. Ria thanks Hiraku for taking them in, so to repay him they built a furnace and a smithing station. They created metal pots and Hiraku finally realized they left the Stone Age. After settling down, Ria tells Hiraku the elves are ready to take his almighty stick and reproduce. As they were farming, one of the elf girls found the wheat farms and asks permission to make some bread. Hiraku is happy as he tasted bread for the first time in this new world. Hiraku thought about expanding the fields and wondered who owned this plot of land. Lu tells him it's the territory of the Demon Lord, but since he hasn't received any support while building this village, the land belongs to Hiraku. That night, the girls wonder about Hiraku's powers, how he tamed the inferno wolves, the demon spiders, and was able to cultivate this barren land. At the same time, Hiraku thinks it's time to continue construction on the waterway with help from the elves. The next morning, Zabuton captured a queen bee, so Hiraku built it a house, and in 10 days the beehive grew and started producing honey. He also built a water reservoir, and Ria wondered how far the waterway progressed. He suggested building it using wood, but Ria told him it would leak, so Hiraku used his almighty hammer and made compacted dirt slabs. The elves built the foundation using dirt and laid their the slabs, along the path. In a couple of days, the waterway was completed, and it accidentally transported some fish into the reservoir, so Hiraku decided to cook some. The next day, he built a rice field. He struck the ground with his almighty hoe and showed his hose how to fill the rice field with water. They planted the seedlings, and the rice grew in a week. They let the rice dry, then used his almighty tool to thresh them. After some hard work, He cooked the rice and made some rice balls with some leftover fish. The girls really loved eating his balls and wished they could get a mouthful every day. They planted more rice fields, and Hiraku saw the girls cleaning themselves with magic. Since he couldn't use magic, he started building a bath, creating a furnace to heat the water, a tub, and a washing area, but he wondered where to get rid of the used bathwater. Tia suggested they use slimes, as they can purify waste and clean areas. Hiraku found a mushroom growing on a piece of wood. He wanted to eat some shiitake mushrooms, so he started hitting the wood with his almighty tool, and Kuro thought his master had finally gone insane. Later that night, he taught the girls how to take a bath, and the girls couldn't take it anymore, so they joined. Hiraku started panicking, and Lu told him it's okay for his wives to take a bath with him. As his almighty stick grew harder, he didn't do anything because, after all, he's an anime protagonist. What a spineless bastard. The next day, the dogs found 5 new sets, elves, in the forest, and Ria says,
Let's start making children! Yeah!
Kuro is happy his master's harem increased and tells us his story. Before he met Hiraku, he spent his days as an alpha male, never losing a single fight. One day, he met a female, and they started traveling together. Soon, she got pregnant, but they ran into a garbler bear. After getting hurt, they couldn't hunt for food, and they found themselves in front of Hiraku's farm. Kuro wondered how a weak human could survive the dangerous forest. However, he felt limitless power coming from Hiraku's almighty tool. Hiraku fed them and took care of them, so after their pack grew, they decided Hiraku would be their master. However, he still hasn't realized they're the legendary Inferno Wolves. Time passed, and the girls finally built a large home for all of them to live together. It had a main hall, a room for Hiraku, a dining room, and a kitchen. There was even a cellar to store firewood and meat for the winter. The girls were happy they had individual rooms, and Hiraku wondered why there was a bolt on one of the rooms, but it turned out to be the breeding room. Later that day, the girls were starving, and Hiraku told them he planned to make curry. Even though the spices are really sensitive to the weather, the almighty tool allowed him to grow all the spices he needed in any climate. After he collected the ingredients and spices, Ria was the only one to help in the kitchen. They started by searing the rabbit meat, then added the spices, sautéed the onions, and finally added the soybeans and let it simmer. Hiraku thought he was missing something and realized he forgot the naan.
The naan! What is naan? It's naan! Naan! It's naan! Naan?
After kneading the dough, he used the outside of the pot to cook it, and the whole village gathered to eat. Everyone hesitated to try it at first, but they all enjoyed it. As winter started approaching, Hiraku made sure he stocked up on wood and got blankets from Zabuton in exchange for some potatoes. The elves upgraded their metal forge, while Lu and Tia dried the meat to stock for the winter. Hiraku also figured out a method to store the vegetables by covering them with snow. However, as he saw Lu smoking the meat, he wondered why he couldn't use magic. That night, Lu told him magic is easy, but he's already amazing, as no one can survive in a place like this, and no dildo can compensate for his almighty stick. As winter came, they spent more time indoors, and Hiraku built board games to have fun. As Lu and Tia played, it became obvious that Tia was winning, so Lu pretended to knock the board over by accident. However, Big Melon's Tia used magic and recovered the original state of the board. Hiraku was surprised when he saw the dogs playing chess, and as they played a complicated game of mahjong, Kuro managed to beat all of them, and Hiraku came last. He also built a bowling alley to have fun with the girls, enjoying their insides. The indoor games, and the delicious food. The snow melted, and spring came, but out of nowhere, Zabuton sounded the alarm, and a wyvern could be seen in the distance heading straight to the village. The wyvern started preparing a fireball, but as it launched, Lu and Tia created a barrier shield around the village. On impact, the barrier shattered, and the fire spread all around. The elves started putting out the fire, and Hiraku wondered what to do. Wanting to protect everyone, his almighty hammer turned into a spear, and Hiraku launched it, destroying the wyvern's multi-layered armor and taking out its wings. The spear came back to him again, and as he launched it again, it pierced the wyvern's heart. Hiraku wondered if someone sent this monster to attack the village, but Tia tells him it's unlikely since these wyverns are extremely rare monsters and sometimes wander on their own. That night, they made so many delicious plates out of the wyvern's meat. Tia tells them it is said that wyvern's meat is a delicacy that even kings don't often have. Lu wonders if Tia helped Hiraku, but Tia tells her that spear pierced through a 3 multi-layered barrier and went through the wyvern heart. There is no way her magic can do anything to help. To the east, the demon generals are wondering how a wyvern was taken down. Afraid of fighting whoever did that, they panic and one of them even threatened to resign. To the south, the dragon Harem saw the wyvern getting Hiraku's stick and is sure that attack could kill him in an instant. Back in the village, Hiraku saw his grapes fully matured and they decide to make wine. After harvesting the grapes, all the girls gathered and started squishing their thighs. Sorry, I mean squishing the grapes with their feet. As they moved in a circle, Tia slipped and fell. Just like that, Thread Kun started writing the rest of this recap with one hand. They found their rhythm singing a song, and their juices came flowing down the pipes, managing to fill 16 barrels. In the heavenly realm, the goddess of agriculture is reprimanding her father for giving Hiraku the almighty farming tool. Not just that, but he gave him a replica of the holy lance capable of destroying the world. Zabuton sounded the alarm again. Hiraku found another naked loli and feels this is deja vu. She turns out to be Lu's sister, Flora. She went into the dark forest to save her sister. Lu tells her that Hiraku is her husband, and he's also the master of everyone in the village. Flora starts apologizing. After devouring Hiraku's meat, she decided to leave, and after 1 month, she comes back with a bunch of ogre maids. They also bring some cows, and Hiraku is excited he will be able to make butter and cheese. Tia realized she's the only angel in the village, and after leaving for a couple of days, she brings the 3 destroyer angels and a bunch of lizard men. They also bring a chicken, and Hiraku is happy the village has become more civilized. The maids help around the house, and Hiraku teaches them all the cooking methods he knew. After the wyvern attacked, Tia gave the angels the job of protecting the village and patrolling the dark forest. The lizard men were responsible for all the manual labor, and Hiraku had to tie a red band around the leader's arm to tell them apart. What a racist bitch. Ria brings even more elves who are wandering the forest, and Hiraku wonders why they're only girls. Ria tells him the men didn't survive the war with the humans and asks Hiraku to make babies with all of them.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
A few days passed, and Hiraku gathered all the race's representatives. He explained that the little house under the tree had turned into a village and now it's time to give it a name. Zabuton pointed at the door, and as he saw the great tree, he named the village the Great Tree Village. That night, they nominated Hiraku as the village mayor and drank the whole night to their heart's content. Time passed, and General Bezel came as a messenger from the demonic kingdom. He presented Hiraku with a legendary healing potion as a gift and told him he came on behalf of the demon lord. Hiraku thinks he came to collect taxes since this land falls under the demon lord's domain, so he offered him 10% of their harvest as taxes. Bezel seemed surprised and nervous but decided to accept the offer. After Bezel left, the girls praised Hiraku's negotiation skills as the usual tax rate is 60%. After Bezel returned, the other generals were surprised the village decided to pay taxes while having the strength to defeat a wyvern. They became suspicious, but Bezel told them the vampire princess Lu and angels of annihilation were taking residence in that village. There is even an army of high elves and a pack of inferno wolves. Bezel agreed out of necessity for the survival of the demon kingdom. Another guest appeared at the village, Harem, the ruler of dragons. He presented the village with a legendary sword. Hiraku wondered why he was visiting, and his attendant told him they came to greet the mayor of this village since they are their neighbors to the south. After taking his human form, they drank together till the night came and sent him back home with a bag of apples. The next day, Hiraku suggested they build a guest house and a reception area. The elves started construction, and he also assigned different alarms for visitors and attackers. He discussed the welcoming party, and the ogre maid suggested building a group of all races to show the village's strength. Soon, more visitors arrived from a village to the east called Howling Village. Lu asked their leader if the travelers in front of her were the whole group, and he claimed that was all of them. At that moment, Lu told him she would treat the others like enemies, and the men hiding in the forest were caught by the wolves. The leader apologized, saying some of his men were straggling behind, and Lu told him it's better to behave while staying in this village. The next day, Tia locked the door inside the guest house. Hiraku wondered why, and Tia told him they didn't bring a gift and even hid people in the forest, so she was suspicious of their intentions. That night, their leader told Hiraku they managed to survive by trading with humans, but in recent years it became unstable due to wars, so they decided to build new relations. The next day, they asked if Hiraku could send someone to Howling Village since traveling through the Forest of Death is really difficult. Their village produced paint, silverware, and glassworks, and Hiraku wanted all of that, so they agreed that Hiraku would offer crops in return. Tia took charge of the party and traveled in Hiraku's stead, and Harem agreed to take everyone on his back in exchange for a barrel of wine. After that day, he visited regularly and showered the village with gifts. After returning, Tia reported that the people loved their food, and some of them even wanted to move to the Great Tree Village. Hiraku was worried about the future of the village and agreed on the condition that they have to send at least 2 males. The beast people arrived, and the fox girl Senna brought 3 young boys with them. Every girl got excited because Hiraku's almighty stick won't be so mighty in a few years, so the boys will have to take over breeding the hoes. Haraku saw Senna using magic and wondered if he was the only one who couldn't use magic. Haraku felt like a useless loser, as the animals used it as well. Even the shit-cleaning slime could use magic. At that point, everyone realized Haraku is the ugliest, most useless protagonist in the whole universe. At that moment, the earth shook, and one of the angels reported a fight between a bear and a bloody viper had started. Haraku started heading there and calmly told his hoe to let him down. With his almighty hoe, he took them down with one slash, and the angels realized the mayor is the most overpowered Giga Chad protagonist. They made bear meat steak and fried the bloody viper. After enjoying their meals, Haraku went to visit Flora's lab and asked how the miso fermentation was going. She told him she kept failing, so they collected the ingredients together. After simmering the soybeans and grinding them, they massaged his balls, I mean the miso balls, and let them age in the cellar. In the guest house, a group of dwarfs arrived. They asked to have some of the grape wine. In exchange, they offered to help turn any crop into alcoholic beverages, having studied how to make alcohol. Haraku agreed, and the dwarfs used their technology to create whiskey from corn. Haraku loved it, and the dwarfs decided to stay in the village. That night, the party started. The dwarfs thanked Haraku for taking them in, and Haraku wondered if they would be interested in mating with some of the girls in the village. The elder told him unless they can grow a beard, he's not interested. The next day, Zabuton sounded the alarm once more, and a dragon could be seen heading to the village. Haraku prepared to launch his spear, but Darame suddenly knocked the dragon away. Another one appeared that was more eager to attack and dangerous, so Haraku launched his spear, and the dragon barely managed to dodge it. Before he could launch it again, Doraem's attendant begged him to stop. The dragons turned out to be Doraem's wife and daughter. Haraku wondered why they came, and it turned out Darame was sneaking out at night to visit the village, so his wife thought he was cheating. The daughter, Lasti, and the wife apologized, and before they left, Darame warned them to be careful here, as the villagers have the power to kill a dragon easily. So, the wife ordered her daughter Lasti to stay at the village and satisfy Haraku in any way he desired. It took her some time to get used to doing chores around the village, and after a few accidental explosions, she started to fit in. General Bezel came back again to order some crops, but after seeing Lasti, the destroyer dragon, he almost shat himself, and he was pressured to buy anything she offered. After returning to the demonic kingdom, the generals agreed they must monitor that village, so Bezel asked his daughter, Florum, to spy on the village and live there until she could make a full report on their strength and weaknesses. Lasti gave her a tour of the village. Florum found the village ordinary and wondered why the destroyer dragon was living there. Lasti got called to meet other guests, and Florum was left alone. She decided to use this opportunity to analyze their military strength. As she saw the lizardmen, ogres, and beastmen, she thought it was possible to win. But when she saw the vampire princess, the angels of annihilation, the elves, the inferno wolves, and the demon spiders, she realized it was impossible to win. The last person she didn't have any information on was the mayor. She wondered how powerful he must be, but out of the corner of her eye, she saw Haraku taking a stroll. He asked her if she was okay, but she told him she didn't need an ugly, disgusting human to worry about her. After meeting Lasti, Florum learned that the disgusting human is the mayor. Lasti told her that he is so strong he almost murdered her mom and would be murdering that pussy later tonight. Since that day, Florum joined the village but was extremely nervous around Haraku. Seasons passed, and as Haraku and the girls enjoyed eating vegetable hot pot, he wondered if he could get seafood. Ria asked what he meant by seafood, and he told her stuff like crab, cod, and monkfish. They started researching, and Florum told him there is a port city in the southern kingdom. Lasti volunteered to fly them there to secure some, and 3 days later, they were back with Michael, a merchant from the southern kingdom. He brought all kinds of fish and told Haraku he wanted to do business with the village and be the merchant who handles all trades between the village and the outside world. Haraku accepted his proposal, but when he brought up the alcohol,
You can't have the alcohol!
3 days earlier, Michael had received some uninvited guests and wanted to drive them away. However, after seeing it was Bezel's daughter and Lasti, the destroyer dragon, Michael was terrified. When he saw the goods, extremely rare fruits and vegetables, he knew he couldn't let this chance slip away and agreed to give them whatever they wanted. He wanted to take part in the delivery, and as he met the incredibly powerful people who lived in the village, he soiled his pants more than once. Haraku was enjoying his seafood hot pot when Zabuton sounded the alarm. A dragon started throwing fireballs around the village and wagging his scaly ass to challenge Haraku. With a throw of the spear, he took out the dragon's wings. In the forest, the dragon turned out to be another girl. That ugly loser's harem is never going to stop growing. She started explaining herself when Darame arrived. He apologized, explaining it's his older sister. He told her that Lasty got married to a human, so she came to test her niece's husband's powers. After making her fix the mess she caused, she told him her name is Hakare, and they welcomed her into the village. Hakare asked to play some of their board games, and Darame asked to play mahjong. Hakare wondered what they should bet on, and they agreed to play strip mahjong. As the game continued, it became very serious, and Hiraku regretted his decision as he lost all his clothes and sat there butt naked. That night, the girls enjoyed seeing Hiraku's almighty stick. The next day, Hakare was good at everything and got bored, so Hiraku gave her the responsibility of being the village teacher. More naked girls appeared at the village gate. It turned out the Inferno Wolves decided to clear a dungeon where the Lamia girls lived. They brought precious gems from their mines and asked Hiraku to spare them. He asked them to establish a trade treaty, but on one condition: they have to cover their huge plots since his almighty stick was about to explode. That night, in the demonic kingdom, 3 noble girls told their princess that the Great Tree Village took Florum hostage. They also said the village was up to no good since they were fortifying their military strength, so the princess decided to attack the village. Florum wondered why her father came to visit so late, and he informed her that the princess was preparing a military campaign. Some people had filled her head with lies, and they planned to attack the village. Florum gave them a detailed report, but those stupid bitches still decided to raise arms against the village. Bezel suggested she send someone to show them their military strength, but to be careful since some may just decide to wipe out the whole demonic kingdom. The next day, Florum sent the Lamia girls to wipe out the princess's forces in exchange for 10 boxes of apples. Florum brought the girls to Hiraku and told him they would start living and working in the village. After Hiraku left, she told them that putting in honest work was the only way their transgressions would be forgotten. The girls planned to escape many times, but after meeting the monsters in the village, they decided to work hard and gave up on the idea of escaping. The princess apologized for her aggression towards the village, and after learning more about the Great Tree Village, she departed with Bezel, leaving the 3 noble girls behind to work in the village. After a great harvest, Hiraku wondered what to do with the extra food, so Lasty and Hakare suggested giving some to their relatives. Lasty dropped off the port city's share and defeated a monster that was attacking fishing ships. She was also given the meat of the monster as a gift for defeating it. Hakare headed north to visit her parents, and on her way back, she brought some mountain elves. She begged Hiraku to take them in and help them make lots of babies. He decided to accept them, and soon they shared some of their crafts, such as pottery. While in the north, Hakare found an unexplored dungeon. Ria suggested exploring it, and soon departed with a party of elves, lizardmen, and inferno wolves to the north. Hiraku was enjoying his bath, but outside, the 3 noble girls were caught trying to sneak in on Hiraku. They wanted to develop a plot, but Florum told them to get in line, as everyone was trying to cultivate Hiraku's almighty eggplant in their wet soil. As the group heading north returned, they reported a black viper. They wanted to hunt it, as it is said that viper meat can help improve their chances of having babies. As winter approached, Hiraku went to check on Lu. She became sick with fever and nausea and thought it was a cold. But Senna told them someone in Howling Village had the same symptoms and they were pregnant. My boy Hiraku is going to be a father. Time passed, and Lu's belly started growing. Life became more organized. After breakfast, Hiraku worked in the fields and discovered an infestation of pests. However, he transformed the almighty tool into a watering bin, and they disappeared. The cattle grew in numbers, and the lizardmen suggested increasing their food. The farm increased in size, and Tia discussed increasing their trade partners and goods. As days passed, Hiraku grew more plants and constructed lots of useful items. The village created training grounds to strengthen their soldiers, and Hiraku decided to use a wooden sword. After a couple of hits, he felt exhausted. He tried using throwing daggers but missed every single one. After that, he realized he could only use his almighty stick. The ogre girls started experimenting with food and created many disgusting dishes. Hiraku, against throwing food away, had to eat it all. The next day, a strange man showed up and started bowing to the god statues. He greeted Flora and congratulated Lu on her child. He wondered how it was possible for a vampire to get pregnant, but Lu told him Hiraku's stick can put his seed into anything he wants. Hiraku wondered who this man was, but Lu told him he's the proprietor, an ancient and respected vampire, like their grandfather. The proprietor planned to leave right away but begged Hiraku to give him the masterpiece he crafted of the god statues. Hiraku refused and told him he would make a new one instead. After leaving, the proprietor visited the temple and offered the head priest the statue. The priest was impressed and wanted to honor the artist's name, but the proprietor told him that would disturb him. Instead, he should inform everyone to show absolute respect to the Great Tree Village. The proprietor also sent them a piano considered a relic among the nobility. The seasons passed and Lu's stomach grew bigger. The girls wondered if they could do anything to help, but Lu told them the only thing that bothered her was that she couldn't drink any alcohol. Feeling sorry for Lu, the girls banded together and asked Hiraku to sell off all the alcoholic beverages, but he told them the alcohol tastes better as it ages, so they should tough it out. Lu is soon to give birth, and everyone gave her presents, magical items, budding, miso soup, even the monsters brought gifts. As the sun was about to set, Lu went into labor. Hiraku knew he couldn't do any more to help. He remembered his first night sleeping under the great tree. He dozed off, and in the morning, he saw Lu holding a healthy baby boy. The baby smiled, and Hiraku was happy to finally become a father. Lu named him Alfred. Hiraku felt happy the village had grown so much and decided to create currency. He realized with all the demand, he couldn't handle everyone's requests, so the villages should have a way of obtaining goods without his help. In the demonic kingdom, the generals finally accepted the idea they can't face the village's military force. Michael sent the village gifts to congratulate Hiraku on the baby. Tia informed Hiraku there are many people who want to join his village, and Hiraku spent the rest of his days expanding his harem and pumping his seed inside his hose. See you next time.
If we keep eating the way we currently do in this well-stocked village,
I'm gonna come. Oh.